Hi, I'm Coach Tarsh. When I think about why I became a coach, it's really a journey of powerlessness to power that started when I was very young. When I was around 7 years old, I developed a skin disease called the mange. And the mange is very similar to scabies, which is when tiny mites basically set up shop on your skin and cause intense itching. In my case, I got the skin disease from dogs that had it in my neighborhood, and it made some fundamental changes to my life as a child that sort of translated into who I became as an adult. So, what happens is that these mites got into my scalp in my head, and it caused these sores to develop, and I had intense itching. And because the disease was contagious, none of the kids would play with me, obviously, because it wasn't safe and their parents didn't want them to catch the same skin disease. So there I was, 7 years old and powerless. Now, this was my first experience with feeling powerless, but it certainly wasn't my last. That powerlessness lasted for years, and it showed up in my friendships, in my relationships, at work, and later in business. And how it showed up for me is that I became a people pleaser. Even though pleasing people wasn't in my best interest, I did it anyway because I wanted to be liked. And like a lot of people that want to be liked, that feeling of being liked starts to translate into self worth. I remember my first job as a manager. I was straight out of grad school and I felt very intimidated. My employees were much older than me and they questioned my judgment a lot. And frankly, I did too. I didn't feel very confident or qualified to do the job, and it showed. Now, of course, I later developed the confidence that I needed, but in that moment, at that time, I didn't have it. And I remember just feeling helpless and hopeless all the time. Years later, I went back to that company. They asked me to come back and speak. And I shared my stories with a group of managers. And what I realized is that those managers felt the same way that I did way back then. They felt overworked, they felt overwhelmed, and they felt like they didn't have options. And it caused a lot of stress. And so just listening to their stories made me really rethink what I was doing as a coach and also who I was doing it with. Back in 2015, when I started my coaching program, I knew I wanted to help people. What I was a lot less clear about was who those people should be. I knew I wanted to help people grow personally. What I didn't realize at the time was that I could also help people grow professionally. And after that meeting with that group of managers, my whole thought process changed about what I should be doing as a coach and who I should be doing it with. I realized I wanted to help people that felt like me as a new leader. And I wanted to help these people feel more confident, more decisive, and more qualified to do their jobs. And that's when I decided, and I think at the time, probably without even knowing it, that I wanted to help new and emerging leaders. And I wanted them to have a support system that I didn't have. I wanted them to have someone that they could talk to, someone that they could use as a sounding board, and someone that they could trust. Because the one thing that I realized as a new manager was that I really, really wanted someone to trust. I wanted someone that I could share my feelings with that wouldn't judge me and also that wouldn't penalize me. And I didn't necessarily feel like I had that type of support system. We all deserve to be the hero of our own story. And when you take charge of your personal and professional development, you also take charge of the narrative of your life. When you bring your whole self to any situation, you feel better. And when you feel better, you perform better, you get better results, and you add more value to your organization. You truly can be the type of leader that you want to be, one that feels qualified, less stressed, less anxious, and not easily rattled. You'll start to feel more in charge on the inside, and then you'll see the results showing on the outside. When you say yes to me as your coach, you also say yes to you and yes to being the type of leader that your employees deserve.